Did you know that the average wedding price has skyrocketed to over $20,000? I hope that this video can be a saving grace for your wedding budget research, because in this video, I am going to be going over how to have a wedding budget for under $5,000. Not just that, but I'll be diving into how I was able to have a wedding for under $5,000 in my early 20s. But before anything else, I'm Scarlett, and I help everyday women like you with their money and investing problems by providing down-to-earth guidance. It's like sitting down with your nerdy friend over a cup of coffee. Now, if you haven't already, I really encourage you to go check out the other wedding budget videos that I have that'll help you understand the different percentages and allocations of the wedding items in your budget, but then also will help you understand what commonly missed items that you cannot dare to miss. So let's go ahead and dive into our first few categories for your wedding budget to have a wedding for under $5,000. So you will hear this first one everywhere. The first wedding budget item that you need to allocate for is typically one of the most expensive, and that's your venue. So I was able to have my venue at a church, both the wedding itself and the reception. For that, I really only spent around $250, and that included the pastor's tip as well. But what's really interesting is that you can really luck out when it comes to having a wedding at a church, because a lot of times they can provide a lot of the decorations. There are churches that have arches already. A lot of times they already have all the tables and sometimes tablecloths. A lot of the stuff that you may end up spending a couple $1,000s, and they'll already have it. Now, the biggest tip with your venue is to realize that you don't need to go with those different venues that cost 7, 10, 15 grand. Get creative. Okay, there are places like parks, people's large homes in their backyards. If someone has a lot of land, for example, it really doesn't cost a ton to be able to spruce up an area, but it really does cost a lot to go to the mainstream popular venues. One of the most expensive items then, as we're diving into this next one, is the photo and video. A lot of people for budget weddings skip out on the videographer, but to be honest, for me, it was really important because I was able to really experience my wedding afterwards in a whole different way. Now, unfortunately, photo and video is getting extremely expensive. In fact, the average for a photographer is now anywhere from about $3,000 to $7,000. And for a videographer, you can definitely be spending a solid $5,000 to $7,000. So here's some tips in regard to how I was able to get my photographer and videographer pretty cheap in comparison to those like insane prices. First, I did have a wedding that was outside of your typical wedding season. So the wedding season, everyone knows, is around April through July, those pretty spring, early summer times. I had mine in January. Not a lot of brides want to have their wedding in January. So with that, I was able to negotiate prices for both photographer and videographer. And not just that, I really encourage you negotiating packages. There are a lot of packages that photographers and videographers put on their website that include things like different hours, what type of edits they'll do. There's all sorts of different things to look at. But what I specifically did was I looked at those packages, decided what I actually didn't need out of them, and then contacted the videographer and photographer and discussed how to drop down the price and to make it so that I could still have a really high quality item, but also not get some of the additional things that they provide, but at a lower price. Now, the next one is the dress. I was able to get my dress for $800, and it was originally about $1,200. Really, I just went to a typical dress store in my city, and I looked for dresses that were actually their trial dresses. So trial dresses sometimes have a stain, sometimes a missing button, or they may honestly be brand new in pristine condition. But what I was able to do was I bought the trial dress, making it so that I was able to negotiate down on the price because it wasn't brand new. Additionally, I wasn't needing any altering. All I did was adjust the straps just a little bit, and that was it. So that did help out with pricing as well. So I was able to get my dress at around $800, which is a really great price, I think, for dresses, considering a lot of people do spend way over $1,000 on their dress nowadays. Now, real quick, if you're liking this video, please go like and subscribe to my videos so that I can continue to help more women like you with their budgets and helping you guys to save more, earn more, and spend less money. Now back to the video. So another really important aspect of your wedding are all the decorations, right? You see them everywhere on Pinterest, these beautiful photos of all the garland and the floral and these huge centerpieces. I mean, you have to realize it gets insanely expensive. So I did spend an extremely long time figuring out how to make centerpieces, how to get all the floral, how to get the garland, all these things for really cheap. So the first thing I highly recommend you doing is checking out your local Dollar Tree. I was able to get really cute votives. I was able to go through Amazon to get mini light candle lights. And then I really used Hobby Lobby's half price on their floral every other week to be able to get a ton of different floral and garland and whatnot. That helped immensely. So for the signage, I used Canva, and I was able to create my own little poster, print it off at Walgreens. At Hobby Lobby, I was able to buy the frames for only $10. And so something that would have cost literally $100 off of Etsy, I was able to get for really cheap for $15 by myself. So in total, I really only spent about $200 on decorations, which for some weddings is just insane to even think about. Sometimes can't even get a sign for $200, but it really just comes down to being creative. So I really encourage, comment down below if you're interested in me going through an extensive tutorial on how I was able to make certain things for my wedding, whether it be signage or different centerpieces or whatnot. I'd love to help you guys out. Going off of that, our next topic is the wedding flowers and bouquet. So I did not use any real flowers, and to be honest, I'm really glad that I didn't, because I was able to completely hand make my bouquet, the wedding bouquets, and I bought all the garland and floral at Hobby Lobby and at Michael's. Now with this, I really encourage you to check out the clearance. Only buy when it's on sale, because you can go to Hobby Lobby and get it half price every other week. Also, another thing, Hobby Lobby has a really neat section that I think is called their Mr. and Mrs. or his and hers section, where it's all wedding stuff, where they have some really cute floral garlands, for example, and you can get those for half off every other week as well. So make sure you check those out. Next, the cake is sometimes a really stressful event for some brides, because it's one of those things don't realize is really expensive. Some people spend $500 to $700, I'd say is pretty average for a wedding cake. And so this kind of freaked me out, because I was not ready to spend $500 to $1,000 for a wedding cake, and it just wasn't really part of my budget. So for this, I did something where I did a lot of research in my area for a new baker. I did a lot of looking on like Instagram, Facebook, checking out their different stuff. I was able to get a cake that would have cost $700 somewhere else for only $400, and sheet cakes as well with it. So I highly encourage that you go check out some new bakers if you're looking to save some money, and to really see if you can get a cake for definitely over $400. And this was for about 200 guests. So one of my favorite ways to save money on your wedding is through all the stationery that you need. Now, what I mean is, in regard to your wedding, you're going to need potentially save the dates if you choose those, invitations, rack cards, which would be like the wedding programs, thank you cards, and any other cards that you choose to have as part of your wedding. And with this, you may also have stamps and stickers and whatever else you want to go with. But I was able to do something that I thought was genius, because it saved me so much money. But what I did, I went onto Etsy and I scrolled and found a template, and it cost, I think, $7. And I went in, filled all the information out, and from there I went to Vistaprint. All I did was upload the image, and I was able to create wedding programs, and I was able to create invitations and everything for so cheap. I spent less than $200 on things that honestly people spend definitely over $500 on. So I really encourage you check out this way if you're looking to save some money. The last topic I want to go over is catering. So catering is also one of the really expensive aspects of having a wedding. So especially if you're going to be serving a dinner. Now, what I did, I tried to look at different local restaurants, and everything typically is between $10 to $30 a person. And that's honestly really common. And so that was really discouraging, because for 200 people coming to a wedding, that adds up crazy, and that alone will just burst your budget. So I did go a little out of the ordinary, if you would, and I had Chick-fil-A catering at my wedding. Now, what I will say is it costs approximately $1,000 for the catering for around 200 people. But I can tell you that now years later, people still say, oh yeah, you had Chick-fil-A at your wedding. That was so cool. And so that was something where typically at a wedding, you have your classic chicken parmesan. So a lot of times the food at the wedding isn't very memorable. But with this, surprisingly, a lot of people found it to be a really awesome attribute or addition to the wedding. And so I do encourage you to look outside the ordinary, try to find something a little bit different, because for this, I was able to feed everyone at around $5 to $6 a person compared to that wild like $20 to $30 a person. So now that I've gone through this like bird's eye view of what to expect for the large expenses for your wedding, you need to go check out my next videos that really dive into each specific category and how to get really detailed in regard to saving your money. Be sure to go check out the playlist for this wedding budget series right now to continue learning.